Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Channels Beam, and this week we're actually looking at journalism. The profession is being liked and as well loathed by many. But why? That's why we're here, and that's why we're here to find out. We just heard from our online contributors, and we're now being joined by Simon Ateba. Simon, thank you for joining the program this afternoon.
Thank you for inviting me.
The guys on the Hangout raised quite a lot of issues, about journalism, dangers, and threats as well to journalists. What's your take on that concept generally?
I think if you look at journalism today, there are many threats or challenges to the profession, but there are basically 5 of them.
Okay.
And all those challenges are actually threatening to destroy the profession. One of the biggest challenges, I try to enumerate them, one of the biggest challenges is the lack of investment or adequate or serious investment. Investors come with little money, with little faith, and won't have return in a short time. And that's not how journalism works. Journalism works with, like the aviation industry. It takes time. You earn based on credibility. You earn based on how long you've been practicing and how long you've satisfied your audience. And so that's the biggest problem. And the second biggest problem and threat that journalism is experiences and is also affecting the journalist himself is the gradual institutionalization of intellectual theft, or what I would call disgusting plagiarism.
Oh.
And so you have others. You have, for instance, the welfare of journalists. A lot of people believe that journalists have almost been abandoned by the state and abandoned by their employers. You know, a lot of media houses owe journalists in Nigeria several months' salary, some of them up to a year. And almost no journalists, or very few journalists in Nigeria are insured. And living in a very hostile environment, you realize that journalists are asking themselves, why should I take this when I cannot be paid and when I'm not even insured? And if anything happened to me, no one is there to take care of my kids or my wife or my extended family.
All right, so what about the physical hazards or dangers that comes with this profession?
Yeah, that has to do with the hostile environment. We live in a place where people see journalists as spies. We live in a place and in an environment where people don't see journalists as partners. They see us as people who are digging into people's dirty past, and it becomes difficult. Elsewhere, people like to talk to journalists. The society, people in the society called you, and they say, "See, Simon, this thing is happening." But here people have covered event where someone was killed, and I go to a family and I'm asking them, "What? Do you know the person who was killed? Do you know their name? Do you know what can you tell me about them?" And nobody wants to talk to you. People see you as maybe part of the police. The mistrust is there. It's terrible, and that's one of the things. So because of that environment, I have been beaten. I've been kidnapped. Yes, I've been kidnapped. I've been beaten for trying to take a picture of a church from the roadside. You understand? And it was so bad I collapsed and I was taken to hospital. I was rescued by the police. I've received all kinds of threats. I've received threats by drug traffickers. That was a few years ago. So physically, we are losing a lot of journalists. And as I said, it has to do with also money. When journalists are not well taken care of, they live in cheap environment. I mean, you're a journalist, you are not paid for 6 months, or you are not paid for 1 year. And you go to your landlord, and the landlord say collect 6 or 2 years salary, and then plus all those things. So eventually, journalists will go and live in poor and dangerous environment. And so they face armed robbers, they face all kinds of attack, and then they also face threat for things that they are writing. I've been abused, I've been insulted by a minister in this country for asking a question. I don't go into detail, but for asking a question, the minister asked me to go back to school
Really?
And I went to school and I graduated with first class. So I didn't need the minister then to go back to school, but it's to show you how dangerous this profession can be.
All right. Well, thankfully you went to school and you got a first class and you're a journalist. But then that's why we're here. We're trying to look at all these things. Some people actually admire journalism, while some don't. And you're a classic example, just that you've just stated. And of course, we do hope that the society, just as you said, begins to appreciate journalists and journalism as a whole. So I'd like to thank you for coming this afternoon on the program.
Thank you. But
And of course,
there's one thing that I wanted to say.
okay.
We need to understand that journalism should remain the conscience of the country. If journalism dies, if we allow it to die, eventually the whole society will suffer. Corruption will increase. All kinds of atrocity will be committed, and nobody will be there to say this should not happen. And that's why I believe that journalists should be treated fairly. They should be treated as human beings, not as slaves. And they should be given dignity and the respect that they give to other professions, because we also went to school and we are actually there to tell people this is how the society should go.
All right, Simon, thank you again for coming on the program this afternoon.
Welcome.
That's where we are. He's been beaten, he's been kidnapped, but he's still standing strong and he's still reporting issues just as they are. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll look at your tweets coming in. We see them after this break.
I just turned around and I saw and I heard, because there was a sharp sound to go with the straight crack.
A survivor's account on what transpired during the collapse of the Synagogue Church of All Nations building tops the most viewed videos in the past week. From the bottom.
And next, when I woke up, and I said everyone was stacked, it was airtight. There was no breathing space whatsoever.
The sentencing of mutineering soldiers to death comes in at number 4.
With operations against the enemy, or the impeding of the performance of the duty of service, or incites any other person subject to service law under this act to take part in a mutiny, whether actual or intended, is guilty of an offense under this subsection and liable under conviction by court martial to suffer death.
And at number 3 is Channels Television's report on the collapse of a 6-story building within the premises of the Synagogue Church. And at number 2 is a video of learned colleagues engaging each other in a verbal exchange of salvos. While at number 1 is President Jonathan's visit to the collapsed building within the premises of the Synagogue Church of All Nations.
Well, that's all we can take from the viewer participation section of the program. Journalists the world over face various forms of danger in the quest to carry out their duties, and while some succumb to such, many others hold their ground to act as society's watchdog on activities that occur daily within their environment. This is where we end this edition of the program, but as always, the conversation continues online. The social media addresses showing on your screen is the place to go. I am Victor Matthias, and thank you so much for watching.